Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I'm Russ Coleman. Joining me right now is Tony Gold. This is a very special episode. I'm calling it Why Not Fulham? FA Cup and European Dreams. Tony and I are going to go through the upcoming matches, which include a quarterfinal for the FA Cup and 9 matches, which could lead Fulham in a European place by the end of the season. Can they get it done? I'm going to make the argument, why not? Because I've heard a lot of arguments saying, well, not Fulham. And I'm going to make the argument, why not Fulham? So this should be fun. I'll get Tony's thoughts. If you're watching live, please feel free to share your thoughts on the show and what you're thinking about in regards to the FA Cup and also the matches left in the season. And if you're watching on YouTube, and even if you're not, please do subscribe and like this episode on YouTube. That would be very much appreciated. Trying to get us up to 1,000. We're currently at 796. I'd like to get us up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So please do help us out there. Okay, Tony, this is the start of a big week for Fulham Football Club. So I'm putting it all together. We're going to talk about not just this quarterfinal match, but how far can Fulham go in the FA Cup, and then also the rest of the season. How are you feeling, my friend?
Yeah, listen, it's amazing that we're at this stage with so much still to play for. I don't think any Fulham fan in their wildest dreams would have thought that at the start of the season. But look, ultimately, it's in Silva's hands, it's in the players' hands, and they're going to have to find something from deep within to have a last push at this. And they've got 2 great opportunities to make it happen. And they've got to focus on staying on top, certainly in the FA Cup, and then obviously making sure that they push for the league just in case it doesn't go right for them, on Saturday. So, yeah, at the end of the day, Russ, it's in their hands, which is where you want it to be. And ultimately, it's now down to the players and making sure that they do what has to be done. And they're capable. They're very capable, as we've seen.
They're very capable. And we're going to first focus on the FA Cup. And I'm going to share in just a second the upcoming fixtures to see the teams that are left. And we're going to talk about how far Fulham can go. And then the same thing when we're talking about the league. And I'm glad that you put it this way, Tony. You and I have talked about this a great deal. There are supporters and pundits that are talking about how daunting a task it is for Fulham coming up with the fixtures, right? I'm looking at it the exact opposite way. I'm thinking Fulham have played well against the majority of the teams coming up, and they have a wonderful opportunity to get it done. And it's in their hands. That's the best way to put it. It's all in their hands. They can really control their own destiny by getting it done. So for me, this is a wonderful opportunity. So let's start by talking about the FA Cup in general. And I'll ask the question, how far can Fulham go in the FA Cup? And I'm going to share this with everyone that's watching live in YouTube, Tony. So I'm going to share this because these are the clubs that are left in the FA Cup. So let me just share that on my screen. And you'll see when you're looking at the upcoming matches, you have Fulham playing Crystal Palace, Brighton playing Nottingham Forest at home. Then you have Preston at home against Aston Villa on Sunday. And then, of course, Bournemouth against Man City at home on Sunday. So let's just start with the teams that are left, Tony. Am I crazy to think that Fulham have an opportunity to not just beat Crystal Palace, and obviously that's going to be difficult in itself, but to go all the way? What are your thoughts about the teams that are left? Let's start there. How far can Fulham go with the teams that we're seeing here?
Look, it's not going to be easy, right? I mean, we are one of the dark horses for sure. But look, I think Brighton will beat Forest. I think Manchester City will beat Bournemouth. I think Villa will beat Preston. So, if we manage to get a result on Saturday, whoever we get in the semi-final, it's going to be a really tough game. But it's at Wembley. It's a one-off game. And as I said, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be won. But obviously, look, for me, Man City are head and shoulders the favourites still, regardless of their form, regardless of what's been happening with them or with not with them. They've still got the best squad in the competition left by a country mile, and they're still the most dangerous team. And you want to avoid them at every cost. So my mindset is Fulham get the job done on Saturday first and foremost, and then we worry about the semi-final. Please God, if it happens. And obviously you want to avoid Man City. That's the bottom line. You want to avoid them at all costs.
No, I totally agree with that, Tony. And it's funny because obviously the last match of the season is against Man City. Can you imagine if they get all that way and then they have to face them twice? How crazy would that be? But I would take that any day of the week with that opportunity. But yes, I think that you obviously hope that if they get past Crystal Palace, that they can get to that point, and then it's a roll of the dice. Who are they going to play? And I just hope that they can get there. But I think that this is a wonderful opportunity, Tony. And as you already said, and what's interesting here is that you've already talked about who you don't want to play. Would you want to play someone, I know we're jumping ahead. How would you feel if they ended up playing Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we've had Forest's number this season in 2 games, right? So they won't want to play us, Russ, in a one-off game at Wembley. I kind of like the Aston Villa idea in the semi-final. Yeah. I really do.
Oh, why?
I would love that. But look, at the end of the day, I think most Fulham fans would love to win this game. Well, every Fulham fan wants to win this game on Saturday and then just have that day out at Wembley. And anything can happen in a one-off game at Wembley, Russ, right? I'm still not a big fan of the semi-finals being played at Wembley. I think it takes a little bit of a shine off the final a little bit. But you know what? If we can get there twice, I'll take it.
Okay, very good there, my friend. Okay, so let's talk about the first step briefly, and then I really want to focus on then talking about the league. I want to focus on, because we are talking about overall how far Fulham can go, but let's talk about Crystal Palace. And let's get just a quick preview of that upcoming match. And Tony, what's interesting when we talk about this match with Crystal Palace is that I thought Fulham did a number on them at Selhurst Park, and then they repaid the favor, right, at Craven Cottage. They got players back, and they did a number on Fulham. And Fulham didn't show up. I actually saw a member of Fulhamish just talk about this on another podcast, and she happens to be right. Fulham didn't show up. You said that to me as we were talking about this yesterday. What do Fulham need to do to beat Crystal Palace? Let's talk about that a little bit.
They have to find a way to get past Crystal Palace setup. When I think you have to give Crystal Palace credit for the way that they played against us, Russ. They frustrated us at the Cottage. And Fulham found it very difficult to break them down. And ultimately, for me, Crystal Palace dominated midfield. We have to dominate midfield to have any chance of winning this game against Palace on Saturday. So ultimately, in the game recently at the Cottage, Hughes and Lerma, I thought were dominant in midfield. Their back three of Gahey, Richards, and Lecroc were solid. They gave no change whatsoever. And obviously in wide areas, Fulham weren't particularly great. So they have to be better in those positions. They have to get Raul or Muniz, whoever starts the game, into areas where they can affect Crystal Palace, where they can be dangerous on the ball and get opportunities to score goals. We didn't create nearly enough opportunities against them in the recent league game.
Right.
But a lot of that, Russ, as I said, it's a one-off game. It's a cup game. It's going to be at 100 miles an hour. And it really is going to come down to the team on the day that wants it the most and that is willing to put themselves on the line in order to get it. And I think it's going to be a very tight, very nervy game. And it will be about the team that takes their opportunities when they come and is clinical defensively. That's going to be the bottom line.
Okay. I'm not in favor of what I'm about to share with you. Ask a question, but I'm just going to ask it anyways. Would you consider changing the shape and matching up with their shape?
No. I think based on the result that we just had against Tottenham, I think that's how we've got to set up. We've got to play our game, Russ, not get too confused or worried about what Crystal Palace are going to do and how they're going to set up. Silva has to play to our strengths. And ultimately, we know that the five at the back works, but at home, in a cup game, in a one-off game against Crystal Palace, we have to be on the front foot, not defensive, on the front foot, take the game to Palace and trust the players that have performed pretty much, all season to go out there and put in a big performance that's needed.
Okay. So as we talk about this, and we'll be doing a preview of this FA Cup quarterfinal, and let's assume and hopefully all players come back healthy. Everyone's available, Tony. I'm going to ask the question because we're going to be talking about the league coming up next. Do you put out your strongest side, or do you try to mix and match because you have Arsenal on Tuesday? Now, if you're asking me, you put out your strongest side because this is your best chance, in my opinion, to get to Europe would be this. I still think you can get to Europe another way, obviously through the league. But this comes with not just getting to Europe, a chance to get a trophy is unbelievable. You put out your strongest side. Do you agree with me?
I agree with you 100%. And every game, Russ, from this point now till the end of the season is a cup final.
Right.
It's as simple as that. It's a cup final. And look, what Silva's done brilliantly this season is, in the main, is his substitutions that he's made. All right, we all agree at times he could make them a little bit earlier, but in the main, he has made substitutions that have changed games, that have won Fulham games. And we have to trust that process, Russ. And I think that every game is a big game, and every game we have to go into with our strongest 11 available, without any shadow of a doubt. Obviously, if we don't get the result on Saturday, then the Arsenal game becomes even bigger because, that's our last route really back in, into Europe. So every game's a cup final. First one Saturday, next one at the Emirates on Tuesday night.
Okay, very good. Okay, so how confident are you feeling about this match? Give me just a quick thought. I mean, do you feel good heading into this match? Are you really concerned?
I'm not concerned at all because I think if the Fulham that turned up against Tottenham, and albeit Tottenham were atrocious and very, very poor, so it's hard to gauge how well we actually played as opposed to how poor Tottenham were. But look, if the Fulham that turn up in that sort of 7 or 8 game unbeaten run that they had, they've got every chance of winning that game, and I expect us to win it. Is the honest truth. I really do. But the players have to perform to a level. And I think it's fair to say that, other than the Spurs game recently, the performances have been really inconsistent. Now, I'm hoping that the international break has given some players a bit of a chance to rejuvenate themselves and get that rest. And we've got others that unfortunately have not been able to rest. But look, they're professional footballers. They should be, fit enough and good enough to carry these games and get through them. And they will be up for this game, Russ. They will be up because they know what's at stake. They know what's at stake, and they want to win this game as much as anybody. So I'm expecting a high-octane performance with everyone coming out the traps and performing to the best levels that they can.
Okay, and so do I, and I'll share my prediction when we do our preview show, but I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm feeling pretty confident. I know how well Crystal Palace played against Fulham at Craven Cottage, but I think that, like I said, if the players play to their ability, I think they're going to go on to the semifinal, but let's see what happens. All right, my friend, let's move on. Let's now focus on the league. And I've given this a lot of thought. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about every single match rest of the season. That's how we're going to approach this. Because I think that, listen, if you don't have dreams and ambitions, then I feel bad for you because you should be thinking about what can be instead of worried about what might not be. Let's focus on dreams because I think dreams is what can really be a part of a person. So I'm all about dreaming about Europe, dreaming about winning a trophy. Why not Fulham? I'll keep going back to that. I think that part of the problem, Tony, and especially when we now transition and talk about the league, is that we're so used to being told that now Fulham aren't good enough. They don't have this. They don't have that. They're a smaller club in the Premier League. But now you're seeing all these teams that are in and around Fulham that are not quote unquote top six clubs fighting for Europe. And that also lends to this idea of why not Fulham. I think that you should be looking at it as this wonderful opportunity instead of saying to yourself, you know what, no, it's just no, Fulham aren't there yet. I think it's okay to dream, to have this European dream, Tony, before we break down the Premier League.
100%. And there's, as I said, there is no reason why Fulham can't, do it based on where they are at the moment and the final push of the season. There's 9 games to go, Russ, right? And all granted, they are, really tough games on paper. But I think we need a minimum of 18 points, from the last 9 games.
Okay.
To get that European place. I really do believe that.
Okay, so you're looking at 63 points. I was thinking more of 60, but you're thinking 63. Okay, all right. Well, that's going to make this interesting because then we're going to talk about the matches coming up, because now that's going to lead me to talk about the pace that Fulham are on, Tony. So if you are thinking they need 63, they're on pace right now, if you look at it, and they've been pretty consistent throughout the season. 59 points. This is what it was halfway through the season. We are now currently with 9 matches to go, because this is who they are right now. They're now they've established themselves. You can't say that the club is more ahead or more behind where they should be. This is who they are. They're on pace for 59 points, which would just break their all-time record points total in the Premier League. But I want to go above and beyond that. I've heard talk, let's just break that record. No. Let's get into Europe. And to do that, because when we got into Europe those times, the league wasn't as competitive as it is now. You need more points. You absolutely need more points. So I understand why you're going on 63. So that is an interesting take by you. So
I think it's 6 wins from 9.
Okay.
Will take us into the top 7. That's what I believe.
Okay.
6 wins from 9, and we will definitely be top 7.
Okay. I was thinking 5. I was thinking 60, but we're kind of close to each other. But I get that. So here is a little bit of a sobering point that I'm going to share with you and everyone watching live. So if you look at how Fulham have played against the teams coming up, they got 11 points the first time around. That would leave them with 56 points. But in that, there are still opportunities to gain points. That includes a point against Southampton, Tony. That includes losing to Aston Villa. That includes, again, some results that didn't go their way. Bournemouth, they only got a point. So they're going to have to pull some upsets. They're going to probably have to beat someone like Arsenal or Liverpool. They're probably going to have to beat one of the two, in my mind, to get this done. 2 would be great, but they're probably going to have to win one of these upcoming 2 coming up next to get to actually where you want them to. They're definitely going to have to do that. Maybe have to win them both, honestly. And they really can't drop too many points. So that's what's interesting about this, because, like I said, if you look at, and I broke this down this morning, they've gotten 11 points. That's including beating Chelsea, by the way. So we have to hope that they can beat Chelsea at Craven Cottage. I don't see any reason why they can't, Tony, because I don't see Chelsea as the Chelsea under Mourinho or those Chelsea teams from the last, say, like 10 years ago. Those teams that won trophies. This is not that Chelsea team. They're beatable. We've already shown that they're beatable. There's no reason why Fulham can't beat Chelsea, but we will get there. So let's go to the individual matchups and see where we fall on this and see your thoughts on each one of them. So let's start with Tuesday night. Now, what's interesting about this, Tony, is when you look at the Arsenal match, and I've given this some thought. Yes, we're coming off of playing a match on Saturday, but Arsenal will have not played for a while. That might be to Fulham's advantage. And also keep in mind of the players that are out right now for Arsenal. That to me is massive, Tony. So let's talk about this. What are your thoughts about Fulham going to the Emirates? Now, Fulham have played Arsenal very well under Silva at the Emirates. How confident are you that they can get something from that match?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what happens after Saturday, Russ. I think that if Fulham go to the Emirates on the back of a win on Saturday, then they go there full of confidence, their backs up, energised, into a tough environment because Arsenal are still, chomping at the bit for the title. Although Liverpool seem to have it wrapped up, but you never know. So they know what's at stake as well. But yeah, if they go to the Emirates on the back of a defeat, then are the players going to be able to pick themselves up and actually have the energy and the work ethic which they're going to need to go to the Emirates and get a result against Arsenal? That's going to be the big question. They are capable, we know that, and certainly the way that Arteta sets Arsenal up, it actually, suits Fulham. Fulham definitely have been playing better away from home this season, so that's an advantage. But I do think that it will depend on what happens on Saturday in terms of their mentality going into that game on Tuesday night.
See, I think that has a lot to do with it, Tony. Say we win that match, the confidence level is going to be through the roof.
100%.
So for me, I think that could very much dictate what we see on Tuesday. If they lose this, then it's going to be much harder, I feel. I think that then you're just talking about, let's see if we can just get a point out of the Emirates, right? But if they win this, they should be going with all kinds of positivity that they can beat this team at the Emirates. I don't see this as crazy of beating this team at Arsenal, Tony. It's funny because when Fulham came up a couple seasons ago, it almost was like we just wanted to be competitive against these teams. Now, I have a feeling we can beat these teams, but the big marker is beating them at their place. And if you could beat Arsenal at the Emirates, I think that just raises your chances for the rest of the season. That's why I think this is huge. Not that the Liverpool match, which we'll be talking about next, isn't huge, but if they can win this match, the momentum just continues.
Absolutely. It's a tough ask because of the nature of what's at stake. With a Palace game, as we know, FA Cup, it's not just about being the best team and winning. It's also, you need a little bit of luck, and we need that to go our way, and we need the rub of the green. Arsenal at home, with the way they've been playing and the form that they're in and their league position, it's a tough game to go into on the back of a quarterfinal, defeat. Right. It's easier if you go into it on the back of a win. It certainly gives you a better opportunity. But the players on Saturday, physically, are going to have to give a lot, Russ. Physically and mentally, they are going to have to give a lot. The question is, can they pick themselves up 3 days later and go again in another big game? And then obviously, depending on what happens in Arsenal, they then got Liverpool at home on the Sunday, which is another tough game because Liverpool are going for the title. And they also have been on a bit of a slippery slope recently in terms of form and what have you. So it's a big ask, and it's a tough run of games. But you know what? As I said, we're in it. It's down to the players' mentality to go out there and do and find a way to make it happen. They're all going to have to play at their levels, and some of them are going to have to play above their levels, Russ. That's the reality.
Right, Tony. But what we've seen, and that's why really want to break down each one of these matchups, especially, obviously, we're going to talk about the early ones because they're going to be really fresh to us, is that when I look at how Fulham played against Arsenal at Craven Cottage, I thought Fulham played very defensive, but they had a game plan and they stuck to it. I think with more space, Tony, with a bigger pitch, I think actually the advantage goes to Fulham here because I think Fulham can play similar to how they played at Craven Cottage, but beat this team on the break. And they don't have a striker right now. I think the opportunity is there, my friend, but I think it is about momentum. If you win on Saturday, that can help you against Arsenal. I agree with that. So I'm glad that we started our conversation about the upcoming matches talking it in those terms. So now let's look forward to a week from Sunday at Craven Cottage against Liverpool. And I've circled this match. I'm saying it right now. Regardless of what happens against Arsenal, regardless of what happens in the FA Cup, this is just my feeling, Tony. I think Fulham are going to win this match. I think everything's been leading up, everything that they've done this season. The big target for me has always been Liverpool. I think when I've watched Liverpool lately, they are slipping, as you said. It doesn't mean that they don't have a good team, but I think this is a match where it's more to do for me with Fulham, which doesn't sound right. The way you described the Crystal Palace match, believe it or not, I feel this way against Liverpool. If Fulham played at their capability at Craven Cottage, they can beat this team, Tony. Let's talk about Fulham playing Liverpool at Craven Cottage.
Yeah, look, as I said, Liverpool are going to turn up. They know how important the game is. They want to get the League One. They can't afford any major slip ups. We should have beaten them at Anfield back in,
Yes.
in the 2-2 draw. They got, they had a man sent off, Robinson, after 17 minutes. Fulham didn't really capitalise on that and then gave away a late goal. Jota scored that late goal with 4 minutes to go. Look, I think, again, if Fulham play to the levels that we know that they can, Russ, then they can certainly, get a result against Liverpool. It won't be easy. And I can't sit here and confidently say that's a game we are definitely going to win. I wish I could, but I don't think it's going to be that simple. And again, I think Fulham are going to have to, it all depends on how Silva lines up, Russ, what team he's got available. They would have had 2 tough games before this game. And we're hoping that everyone comes through fit and healthy. But yeah, as I say, if he turns up, the right team starts and they're at it, they will give Liverpool a game. And if they play to the levels that we know that they can, they are beatable. But they're going to have to play very, very well to get that result.
I totally agree. But I'm also saying that I actually think a lot of this has to do, Tony. I know what you're saying, that Liverpool is going to want to just put the league away and they're going to be very committed into beating Fulham. But I think if Fulham play to their levels, they can beat this team. That's kind of where I'm going on this. And I think we match up well. And I'm glad that you brought up the point that when we played them at Anfield, we should have won the match. We should have won the match. So that also is a little bit of a psychological edge, I think, to Fulham. It's all been leading up to this. We haven't been able to beat them. We keep getting closer. I'm hoping this is the time, a week from Sunday, where we actually get the job done. And I think that they can, but we shall see. All right, let's move on, my friend. Let's follow that up. Then we're looking at Monday, April the 14th. We're on the road at Bournemouth. This one is going to be extremely difficult, but I just recently watched Bournemouth, and I think that there's some cracks in their armor right now. So I think that even though on paper, I think that they should be favored to beat Fulham, especially at home. I don't know why, Tony, but I like our chances against Bournemouth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, another game that we drew 2-2 with at the Cottage, and Bournemouth scored in the 90th minute, 89th minute to take an equaliser. Another game that Fulham should have won. They're a team. Bournemouth are a good side.
They are.
Make no bones about it. They're a good footballing side. They will be a difficult test in a different way. But, it would be typical Fulham, Russ, right? To beat Arsenal, beat Liverpool, and then go and lose to Bournemouth, right? That would be a typical Fulham thing to do, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm never a big fan of these Monday night 8 o'clock games.
I hate them.
It's a totally different game of football. Under the lights, the atmosphere is different. It's just different. So, but I think out of the 3 games, actually, that will be Fulham's toughest game.
I agree with you. That's why I wanted to bring it up in those terms, Tony, because I think that it's the spot. Like you said, it's Monday night. It's coming off of playing these 2 opponents. I think the easier games, it sounds crazy to say, are Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, Bournemouth are capable and have shown that all season of competing, beating, and doing very well against any side. Fulham, again, have to turn up with the right mentality, the right work ethic, go about their business. They know how to play against Bournemouth. They're a good footballing side. They have to be in their face. They have to be on the front foot. And we have to defend. Again, we have to defend really well. A lot of this is going to come down to how Fulham defend in these games, Russ. We know that we're good going forward. We know we've got the ability to open up teams. What we don't know at the moment, and we haven't seen it consistently, is can Fulham defend well enough over these period of time, keep clean sheets, and make it difficult for teams. That is, yet to be proven this season.
Okay. So I haven't mentioned this yet, and hopefully we will learn more at Marco's presser coming up to preview the FA Cup quarterfinal, Tony. But hopefully very soon we're going to be getting back a key player, and that's Kenny Tete. Now, I don't think he comes right back in, but I think within hopefully 2 to 3 matches he's in, he might be back for a match maybe as soon as Arsenal. I don't know, but he could be back involved in the Bournemouth match. I think that would make a huge difference to this match, Tony, if he's back there. Nothing against Castagna. I think he gives more stability defensively. He has more pace, but he's just a better player right now for whatever reason, even though you and I were all about Castagna. Excuse me. Kenny Tete's really come to play this season.
Yeah, look, I think ultimately he will give us another dynamic option, which he gave us at the beginning of the season, to have that going into these last games if he can get him fit.
Right.
I think we can. I think we'll see him around the Chelsea game. That's where
Okay.
I reckon we'll see him. And as you say, he's not going to be thrown straight back in unless he's hit training well and he's doing everything he needs to be doing and showing at training. But yeah, if he gets back in the side, then it changes the dynamic of how Fulham play down that right-hand side, for sure. We know
Absolutely.
Castagna isn't the same player. We know that he's more defensively minded. I don't mind that. He certainly, hasn't been able to deliver what Tete was, and he's had to play it a slightly different way. But it's been effective, and it's worked to a degree. Yes, he's had difficult moments, but look, it's all about balance, Russ. And at the end of the day, you'd rather have him back than not have him back going into those, last few games.
Totally agree there, Tony. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about facing Chelsea Sunday, April 20th at Craven Cottage. This should be interesting, Tony. And I want to get your thoughts. Before I get your thoughts, I just want to mention this because I was thrilled with how Fulham played against Chelsea the first time around. But that was the first time we saw them play three at the back. And you said to me, Russ, first half, not good. Not good. It ended well, but it took a while for that formation really to play itself out. And then in the second half, obviously near the end of the match, Fulham were the better side and deserved to win that match the way that they did, Tony. So let's talk about this match. And should we even talk about formation this far in advance? But I'm curious your thoughts on that. Would you consider going back to a formation that beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge? So let's preview this match.
That's a game that Chelsea won't forget. And I think that's a game that's been in the back of their mind for a very long time. And they can't wait to get to the Cottage to put what we did to them right. Thank God for 5 minutes extra time in injury time, because, look, the way that they won that game, Russ, was great. Yeah, we didn't play particularly well, but we got the result. Personally, I just think that Silva at home, he needs to be positive. He needs to just be positive, play on the front foot, and get the attacking players that can win games on the ball and playing in those areas. And Chelsea are no great shakes at the moment. They've been very inconsistent. I still think I think they've got a lot of good individuals. I don't think they're a team yet. And I think that's what, the manager's trying to, get in place. And I think Chelsea will be a better side next season. But look, they will be there for the taking. There's no question. Absolutely no question in my mind. But again, Sunday afternoon, 2:00, it's one of those, anything could happen. And it's a derby game. So,
right.
All of that stuff goes out the window. On the day, it's the guts, it's the blood, it's the work ethic, it's who wants it the most.
I agree with all that, Tony. And I agree with what you said, that they are going to be really up for this, but I think that could work to their detriment. And if Fulham play their game, I look at this Chelsea team and I'm thinking, as you said, they're there for the taking, Tony. Another one of these games where I think if Fulham play to their capability, they can do the double over Chelsea, which would be amazing. And that's the way I'm looking at it, but we shall see. But that, again, another pivotal match. We're going through all these. So coming up next, Tony and I will finish up talking about the fixtures, and we'll end with some commentary on both the FA Cup and the European Dream. Okay, Tony, let's move on. Let's now look forward to Sunday, April 26th. Fulham are away at St. Mary's against Southampton. I can't believe I'm going to be talking like this, Tony. How the hell did we only get a point against this team? This team is terrible. And I've watched Southampton. They are terrible. If they don't get 3 points here, they don't deserve to even sniff a European place, my friend. Let's start by talking in that way. This is, again, Saturday, April 26th.
Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is Southampton could be relegated by the time we get to this game.
Yep.
So the truth of the matter is they'll have nothing to play for. I would expect Fulham to go there and absolutely do a demolition job on them. Simple as that. There's no question we dropped 2 points at home against them. That's 2 points that we should have, definitely had on the board. But Fulham didn't turn up. And Fulham can't be Fulhamish in any of these games, Russ. They have to turn up and be at it, be committed, take the game to them. As I say, by the time we get to that game, they will be down Southampton, I would imagine. And as I say, you hit them early, they go behind early, and then it's a game that Fulham should coast to a victory at, really.
I totally agree, Tony. If they don't get a victory here, I don't know what they're doing. That's the way I'm looking at it, because this team, as you said, could already be relegated. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about Fulham going to Villa Park to face Aston Villa Saturday, May 3rd. Now, this is interesting because I think Villa are a team that's been very consistent for the past couple seasons. But I thought everything changed, Tony, and you're going to agree with me, when they played at Craven Cottage when Fulham missed the penalty. That's when everything changed, right? It all changed then. So Fulham were in the match, and then Aston Villa took off from there. You can't have a repeat of that. But what do you make of this match? What do you make of Villa? Because Villa are still in Europe. So how much does that factor into what's going on here?
They're a dangerous team, Russ. I think they are a dangerous side. They've got a very good manager. I really like him. I think he's one of the top managers. I think they've got some excellent players. They really strengthened in January. They're one of the teams that brought in some absolute quality and class. Marcus Rashford, I think, was a great bit of business. Asensio as well, great bit of business. What a quality footballer he is. Look, me, Russ, I think this is the pivotal game. I think this is the crucial game that Fulham get to. And I think if they can go to Villa Park and win there, I think they will make Europe.
Okay.
If they're still in the hunt by the time they get to Villa Park, I think that this is the pivotal game. I think that is the crucial match that everything will hinder on in terms of, where we end up finishing and where our season goes. That game at Villa Park, 12:30, massive game for Fulham. Massive.
Okay, excellent, Tony. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about another match that Fulham blew it in the end, gave up a late goal. Tony dropped 2 points against a team that's actually really improved a lot since David Moyes has taken over. And I know the guys from a podcast. I'm good friends with the guys from Everton. I'm pulling for them because they become friends of mine, and I always will pull for them against Liverpool. So that's kind of where. So I have a little bit of a soft spot for Everton. I do. But here's another opportunity, my friend. Fulham should have won that match. They should have won it. So now we're back at the Cottage, Saturday, May the 10th. What are your thoughts about Fulham playing Everton?
Who would have thought playing Beto regularly would make such a difference to a team up front? I mean, really. David Moyes is he's a good manager. And he knows what he's doing. And listen, Everton are a team on the up. And that will be no gimme, let me tell you. That will be no gimme, because what Moyes has injected into that team now is a belief. and he's using players that are effective. I'd love to have Beto at Fulham. I'd love to have him at Fulham. I can't believe that Dyche kept him on the bench and never played him. It made no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
But now they've got a pivotal point. They're playing out, playing off him. He's a dangerous player. He will cause us a lot of problems. And that won't be an easy game, Russ. That will be a tough game. And Fulham will have to play a very different way against them. They'll have to be a lot more dogged. They might have to win some, they'll have to win ugly if they're going to win it, because that's just how Everton turn up and how they play. And they will have to go into the trenches in that game, no doubt about it. But again, it's a game that I would expect us to win.
I totally agree with you, Tony. I think it'll be difficult, but it's a match where Fulham actually really need to get all 3 points, and I think that they will. But they are definitely different under Moyes, and full respect for what he has done. And I always rated him as a manager. Obviously, everything changed when he went to Manchester United. Then he just went to this team, to that team, the West Ham situation, and now he's back where he really made his reputation on, and I think it's a good fit for him back at Everton. And he is a quality manager. I don't care what anyone tells me. All right, my friend, let's move on. Guess what's next? Sunday, May the 18th. Uh-oh. Fulham are facing Brentford. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, it's Brentford's European Cup final, isn't it? They can't wait for this game, Russ, after what we did to them at home.
Oh, this is going to be crazy, Tony.
Right? I mean, this could be anything, Russ, and that's what worries me. Their fans, their club, everything about. I can't stand them. Honestly, cannot stand them.
I can't stand their supporters, Tony. I can't.
I just hope that we, what worries me is that we could need to go into this game to get the 3 points. It's one of those. It could be one of those, and it's like, you're going to be walking on eggshells. Your heart's going to be going. You're going to be nervous. It's going to be one of those. It's another tough game because of what's at stake and what it means to, it means more to Brentford than it does to us, let me tell you. But it's a game that we want to win. We want to win that game at all costs. So, again, we've got to turn up there with the right mentality. The players have got to be on it. It's not going to be easy. And Brentford will remember what we did to them. They will remember that. And they'll want to put that right. They'll want to put that right.
Okay, Tony. This is going to be one that we keep saying each match is pivotal, and they are. But this one, the way that the last match ended, they are going to be chomping at the bit. Those supporters, it would be, in a weird way, it would be Fulhamish for Fulham to go and win this on the road, Tony, because this would actually go against type. So I think that we got a good chance of winning there, because I think that everyone's going to be expecting revenge for Brentford. And I'll say it again, when teams are looking for revenge, I kind of like our chances, because I think they're going to be too hyped up. And I think this team is going to be way too hyped up. Their supporters are going to be just pointing at this. And I think if we get up on this team, Tony, I think we're going to win this match, because I think that the pressure is going to be so much on those players. I actually like Fulham's chances against this.
Listen, it's going to be, Brentford will have the victory bus around the corner waiting to go, to do their run through Hammersmith and wherever else they want to go. Axon, listen, we've just got to turn up there and take it to them and hammer them and really, play at an intensity that they can't match. But it's not going to be easy. We know that. But yeah, we've got to make sure that we somehow find a way.
Okay. I have to share this. These are my friends, Tony, from the Toffee Bluecast, who actually really have been supporters, not just of this show, but of me personally. So I want to give them a shout out. Please do check out Toffee Bluecast. I've actually been on this show several times, and these are great guys, and they do a great podcast about Brentford. So thank you guys for chiming in. I really appreciate that. All right, Tony, let's end with the final match of the season. It might not be the only time we play Man City, by the way. Should we go all the way back to that? We shall see if we're talking about an FA Cup final, which would be amazing. Okay. Could it come down to this, Tony? Fulham versus Manchester City, Sunday, May the 25th. If we're here and Fulham are in Europe, or have a chance for Europe, if they win this match, they're in Europe. What is going to go through your mind?
It's the one team you don't want to be playing, basically. I mean, their last victory was against us in October, wasn't it, Russ? They haven't won a game since then. No, in all seriousness, yeah, look.
Yeah.
If we need to beat Man City last game of the season to get into Europe, I'll take it now. I'll bite your hand off and I will take it. But obviously, ideally, you don't want to be playing Man City last game of the season, having to win that game to get a European spot, because they are, they're the best side in the league by a country mile. We know that. They haven't performed this season. Things have gone wrong. They're an aging squad, but they've still got ooze and bags of quality. And, Fulham will have to play extremely well to win that game. And we haven't had a good record against them in recent years at all. So, it's not a game that fills me with the joys of spring, if I'm honest.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying, that you would want it to come down to this, meaning that, hey, I can live with the fact that it would come down to this. It might have to come down to this.
It might do.
It might have to, because there are so many teams in contention. But if we're here at the very end and we are close to a European spot, that is something that I think is an achievement in itself. I want Europe. I've been pushing this. I predicted 7th to begin the season. So for me, if it comes down to this and they miss out on 7th, I'd be upset, but it would still show a successful season. But I think if they face them, it's going to be difficult, but I wouldn't rule anything out at this point. I wouldn't rule it out, but I think it would be difficult. I'll just leave it there. I agree with you. They're still the best team. So for me, I won't rule it out, but I'm not counting on that. Oh, Chris has to chime in. I've noticed what Mr. Goldman said about Fulham versus Liverpool. Yes, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. I am predicting a Fulham victory. You know this, Chris. But we'll see what happens.
Chris, he always says that, hoping that one day it comes true.
Exactly. Eventually, Chris, it has to happen.
Exactly.
Eventually, if I say it enough, maybe I'll will it to happen. Right, Tony?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like I'm trying to will it to happen.
Exactly. But no, listen, like you say, Russ, if we come down to that Man City game, having gone through all of the games that we've just spoken about, and we need to win that game, yeah, you're right, then it's been an unbelievable season for Fulham. Let's make no bones about it. And yeah, we'll be gutting and we'll be disappointed, and it will be a case of what if. But we still have that FA Cup. We still have that little dangling carrot still there. So, yeah.
Okay. So, and that's going to lead us to finish up the show with final thoughts. And I want to talk about this opportunity ahead. Like I said, that's the reason why I called this episode Why Not Fulham? FA Cup and European Dreams, because it's there for them. We keep talking about this, Tony. We just went through all the fixtures. We talked about the FA Cup. We talked about the Crystal Palace match, the teams that are still left in the FA Cup. I'm going to make my argument that Fulham can make one of these dreams come true because of it's been leading up to this. They've been consistent throughout the season in the Premier League. They have been. They've been completely consistent. They're going to have to raise their game a little bit to get to the points total that you're looking for. It's basically a win and a draw to be where you want them, because they're on pace for 59. You say they need 63, and I get where you're going on that. Here's why I'm feeling that they have a better shot than many might think. It's because of the player coming back in Kenny Tete. Maybe Harry Wilson comes back. I also want to mention what Willian can give them. And then on top of it, I think you're going to see more from Ryan Sessegnon. So the team that started the season, Tony, I think the team now is stronger than that team. So I think Fulham have a chance to make this happen, because I'm looking at it where we began and where we are now as a squad. The team is better, Tony.
Yeah, we've grown. The new players have bedded themselves in well, and I think there's clear understanding now between the midfield players. All right, there's an argument to say we still haven't got a tune out of Emil Smith-Rowe yet, and there's still more to come from him. But look, I think one of your viewers mentioned it earlier. 50 years to the
Yep.
day that Fulham got to the FA Cup final against West Ham, 1975. 50 years. Is it written in the stars, Russ, that 50 years later, Fulham get another trip back to Wembley in an FA Cup final? Here we go, fingers crossed. What Alessandro says there is absolutely right. Smith Rowe definitely has to turn up. But I think we agree that it's more than likely that Pereira will start in that role with Lukic coming back into the team. But look, if we can get a tune out of Smith Rowe for the remaining 10 games, 11, 12 games, if we get a cup run to the final, then we've got every chance, Russell, of causing a few more surprises along this unbelievable journey that we've had so far this season. But it's down to the players. It's down to Marco Silva. He's got to get his tactics right. He's got to get his team selections right. And the players have to perform. And they have to perform to a really high level. Cannot drop their levels.
But I want to just put this into perspective. We're here doing this show on March the 25th. And we're talking about Fulham in the FA Cup still and potentially fighting for a place in Europe. That's something, Tony, that we've seen seasons peter out, right? And this still could. That's the worry here, is that we could still end up 10th or 11th and we go out. But I'm trying to be optimistic based on this team, what I've seen this season. I think they're a little bit different, but it's up to them, as you said. It's up to Marco Silva to make it come true. And we'll end with this because Chris is right. I have to be right sometime, Chris. Thank you for mentioning that. The FA Cup is there for the taking, looking at the 8 teams that are left. And Chris is 100% right.
100% right. Look, there's a fine line, Russ. It's a very fine line in football, as you know, right? And Fulham lose the next 3 games, season's over.
Yep.
Okay. And that's how brutal it is.
I know.
And so I think that it's an old cliche, take every game as it comes. But I really do believe that that's what Fulham have to do at this stage, is take every game as it comes and just tackle the game that's in front of them. And the game that's in front of them now is the quarterfinal, Crystal Palace, Saturday. Silva needs to find a way to win that game.
Okay.
And then we move on to Arsenal Tuesday night.
And then we're on, it just continues, my friend. Okay, great show, Tony. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, this has been great. And certainly are going to have a lot of shows coming up talking about the FA Cup quarterfinal before and after the match. And then we have a big week next week. As we've already talked about, we have Arsenal and Liverpool on the horizon. Yes, Chris, we're playing Liverpool at Craven Cottage. I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about that. But we are going to wrap up the show. For Tony Gold and Russ Goldman, thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.